Yep. Good evening. Nope, I'm super low. It's on, but it's low. My volume. Good evening, everyone. Hello, thank you for being here. I now call to order this August 12th, 2025 meeting of Lancaster City Council. A couple of reminders for everyone just here at the top of the meeting. This meeting and its participants, thank you, are being recorded this evening. Please take a moment to silence your phones and devices if you haven't done so already. First, a note, Bill 5 under item C on the agenda was not taken up by the Public Safety Committee last evening. It was placed on this agenda due to advertising requirements, but since it was not advanced to full council, we will not do a first reading this evening. During our meeting this evening, there will be opportunities for public comment. The first general public comment period is for residents that registered in advance to speak about items that are not on the agenda. Residents may also comment on individual items on our legislative agenda, which is section 9. Finally, a second public comment period will be at the end of the agenda for any other speakers wishing to address council. All speakers will please be reminded to begin with your name and block of residence or municipality, if not in the city, for the meeting record. Be advised that public comment is not a question and answer period. All comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. To help us keep time this evening, I have the light in front of me here. It will turn green when a speaker's time begins. It will blink yellow when there is 1 minute remaining and begin to blink red when 3 minutes has been reached. If a speaker continues past 3 minutes, I will ask them to end their comment. I appreciate everyone's cooperation to maintain equal time and also order during this meeting. Speakers addressing City Council, members of the audience are all expected to conduct themselves in an orderly manner, and please remain respectful to others. Now, for all of those who are willing and able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Harris, would you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Med.
Here.
Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Mr. Glees.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
And President Baker.
Here. We will now move to the approval of minutes of the August 11th, last evening's meeting of committees of council.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second for the meeting minutes. Councilors, any comments on the minutes? I'd like to thank Mr. Harris for turning them around.
I'm sorry, Madam President. These are actually the minutes from the July 22nd meeting.
Thank you very much. I changed that in my notes because I was thinking we were working on yesterday's meeting, but that's not the case because that was committees. I'm going to withdraw my request for a motion and start again. We're moving to the approval of the July 22nd regular meeting of council minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Councilors, any comments on the minutes from the July 22nd meeting? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Glees.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
And President Baker.
Aye. Thank you, as always, for keeping me straight, Mr. Harris. Our next item on the agenda this evening is proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition. I don't believe we have any this evening. Is that the case, Mr. Harris?
That is the case.
Thank you so much. That will then take us to our first public comment period. Again, this is reserved for residents who have contacted the city clerk prior to the cutoff before the meeting to request the opportunity to address council. Quick reminders, I just said this, I'll say it again. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Please be mindful of equal time. And please begin with your name and block of residence or your municipality for the case of non-city residents. Mr. Harris has provided a list of speakers that is on the screen before us this evening to help continue to move things along. So this is the order in which they were submitted. Speakers will come to the microphone that's located over to your left, my right. And so if you'd like to pre-line up, that would help us make sure that things keep moving. So our first speaker this evening, Mr. Harris.
is Daryl Legacy.
Thank you. Mr. Legacy, are you here this evening? I did not happen to see him. Our next speaker, Mr. Harris.
Is Jontel Tolan.
Mr. Toland. And as you're coming to the microphone right over here, as the first speaker, you may need to flip it on the little on-off toggle to on. Thank you. Perfect.
It was on. Yeah, it was already on.
Thank you.
Jontel Tolan, first and only block of 68 Wise Ave. I guess I'll start off by talking about last meeting. I'm appalled and insulted by the way we were gaslit at last council meeting. I held what I wanted to say so that I could do some digging, so that I could think about why you chose to regurgitate a script that was given to you by the very people who seek to cause us harm when you serve us. Don't you think asking them questions at the least and being transparent about what you discuss with them, what questions you actually asked, would be sound, instead of trying to quell what you think is a mob from the start of the meeting, when really it's just concerned citizens of what you serve coming to you with questions, information to share, and overall constructive dialogue. I left early because I was angry. The more I look into what AI data centers do to society in general, not even just environmental effects, it brings up anger, fear, sorrow, anguish. I want our kids to have a future, don't you? Part of your job is to work with us. There are people who came to the last meeting with very valuable information, and I hope you took it upon yourselves to look into any and everything you could from last meeting to now. Can you tell us about any independent third-party environmental impact studies that were completed for this project, and where can the public access it? Who in our community, not corporate representatives, have been consulted directly about this project, and where is that record? Will you commit to showing up to a town hall style question and answer where residents, not just corporate PR teams, can speak freely and have their questions answered without time limits? How will you ensure air, noise, and heat pollution from this facility will not harm our neighborhoods, especially Black and brown and low-income communities who already face environmental burdens? Given what happened in Memphis, where a data center project disproportionately impacted Black communities and ignored environmental justice concerns, how will you guarantee that our city does not repeat those same mistakes? Who will be held personally accountable if the project harms residents or the environment? If you are truly committed to making Lancaster safe and clean in reference to the data center, could you put that comment in writing right now for the public record? Have you took a look at Memphis like I mentioned the last time? Have you looked at Tucson? These are just two cases with very different results. Know that we will continue fighting against this, because this is our lives at stake, our futures at stake. If you represent us and yourselves, you should be alarmed and angry. You should be jumping to make moves to fight this, given what's happening in the country. When you plan new developments, do you imagine who will suffer the consequences? You do think about the consequences, right? And who suffers the most? It's not just the rich who live in Chestnut Hill with tree canopy streets. It's the families in the Southeast, the Black and brown kids playing near the train tracks, the elders who already can't afford their electric bills or their inhalers. Energy prices will go up, and a whole new cycle of downward spiral and degradation of this community's character will begin. I wonder how many of you have already considered any of this. If both these data centers were to be built, it would not only affect the city, it would impact 500,000 people in the surrounding county. This is not a win, as the mayor or the governor said. It's selling Lancaster's soul to companies who will use and abuse us and throw us away when they are done. Why would you want or allow something like this to go through unchecked, unless you alone benefit from it in some way, unless you are so naive that you would believe everything these companies say to you to be able to be swindled so easily? Are you not insulted or enraged? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Brett Stanley.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Brett Stanley, living in Mountville, but working in Lancaster at an aerospace lab adjacent to McCaskey. I was born here and grew up watching the farms and fields turn into shopping centers and overpriced housing developments. I was too young and distracted to care to do much about that. Seemed inevitable and out of my control. But I have a background in metal fabrication. I don't speak very often, so this is a little tough. I was here at the first two meetings. We've kind of figured out this is like a fact-finding process, and yeah. So in custom fabrication, the workers ourselves don't get to decide what companies we service, and I've had the privilege of seeing direct influence on my community in some ways, but I'd be saddened and unsurprised if some of the jobs created through these centers are padded with work already done locally. I'm opposed to AI data centers, and more qualified individuals have discussed negative implications at the previous 2 meetings. Yeah. At the end of 2024, the company I used to work for in Wrightsville quadrupled their output, or had been asked to quadruple their output of data center catalysts, which they've been making for years, with the suggestion that my employer would store the catalyst long-term until needed. That was at the end of 2024. I don't know when all of this money got moved around. Anyway. This leads me to believe that a knowing investor had plans to manipulate individuals to begin stockpiling with the potential knowledge that data centers would be built. If I recall correctly, these are selective catalytic reduction units. They're supposed to be good for 3 to 5 years. They're supposed to reduce 90% of emissions, turning the emissions into nitrogen and water byproducts. But who's going to be checking up on these companies? How can we verify their facts? And what is our recourse when we find out it's bad, just like everywhere else has? What do we do when they're expanding to water and it threatens our aquifers? As a community, we are trying to piece together the true timeline of events and how they were approved without public knowledge. By the time we will have the full picture, likely the damage will have been done. We don't know how this was approved logically or ethically. However, working under these assumptions, parts of these data centers likely have already been fabricated prior to our knowledge, not boosting the economy. Potentially, it's speculation, but with all the wool that's been pulled over our eyes between even the board and what they've been told, what we've been told, it's just alarming. That's pretty much all I have to say. But yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next is Alexander King.
Mr. King, good evening.
Good evening. I live on the 600 block of North Shippen Street, and I've been reading about the data center projects for Lancaster City with increasing alarm in the newspaper. Memphis was mentioned previously. My son lives in Memphis, goes to college there, and he's been telling me some real horror stories about how data centers in the African-American area of that city have been really trashing that neighborhood. One of the specific ways that happens is through the backup diesel generators, which is, of course, the most dirtiest way you can make electricity. But when the grid is overstrained, particularly in the summer, because it's also hot in Memphis, then they just need to kick in those diesel generators to have enough power for their computers. Also, for a while now, actually, I've been following the developments in Abilene, Texas, which seems to become increasingly uninhabitable from the noise. So, as is reported in the newspaper, you can have water-cooled or air-cooled data centers, and apparently the ones in Lancaster are to be air-cooled, which means they will be very noisy. Inside a data center, it can be 95 decibels or higher, which is like standing next to a jet airplane. Outside the data center, you can have a loud hum 24 hours 7. And some have compared that to traffic on Highway 30, for example. But traffic on Highway 30 is pretty minimal at 2, 3, 4 a.m. And the jobs in these data centers are all actually not all that great. It's routine maintenance. There's a few skilled people, and the development history with other data centers going in other cities. Usually the most skilled people are brought in. They're not from the community, whereas the community members getting jobs there are, well, minimal skill and not so great pay in these places. And so I find it really surprising that the city planner was able to make this decision unilaterally on how to class a data center. And so I implore council to evaluate this thoroughly, look at reestablishing noise ordinances for industrial enterprises, and thinking about how data centers are something new and therefore require a brand new classification in the zoning and planning ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next is Irene Grievous.
Ms. Grievous.
Good evening. Irene Grievous, 900 block of West End Avenue. I'm here this evening following up from last month's July 8th regarding my property on 901 Manor Street and the city's continued lack of response to my repeated requests going back to 2021 for third-party inspections, arbitration, and a clear path to resolution. For years, I've been asking for a fair and neutral way to resolve this, and for years, nothing has happened. Meantime, Lancaster is in the middle of a major housing crisis, and this property could be a home for a family right now if the city would simply work with me instead of leaving this matter in limbo. People in the community have been asking me directly to rent the home. Just last week, someone had placed a note on the back door. They work in the construction field and were willing to make any necessary repairs just to live there. A man named Sean Carter, who has done work for me before and tried contacting the city for help, but got nowhere and ignored. And just today, I was approached by a gentleman by the name of Charlie Buskaski, and with his permission, he's in a desperate need of housing. His unit and all the surrounding units in the 200 block of West Chestnut Street are being covered or being converted into $250 a night bed and breakfast rentals. That change alone would displace at least 6 families. This is reality we're facing. A long-term residents are being priced out and pushed out while available homes just sit empty because the city refuses to move forward to basic inspections and mediation. Every week of delay means another week a home standing empty. Another week, families looking for a place to live, and another week a family fails to take action that could make a real difference in the people's lives. I am asking again for 1, a prompt independent inspection for 901 Manor Street. 2, arbitration and mediation to resolve any disputes. 3, a timeline for resolution so a home can be restored to a residential use immediately. This is not just about my property, it's about housing stability for Lancaster residents. You have the power to help people in our community housed. I urge you to act now before more families are displaced. It's your job. This is what you were elected to do.
Thank you, Ms.
To help the
Rivas.
residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselors, excuse me, I'll just take just a moment to remind you that we were copied on the follow-up from Ms. Rivas, a request last month on July 16th. So everyone has a copy of what that was. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Sarah Eder Hinojosa.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Sarah Eder Hinojosa. I'm from the 400 block of West Frederick, and like many people here, I'm here to address the data center issue. I spoke at the Planning Commission last week and mentioned that I hold a master's degree in international relations with an emphasis in sustainable development. So I've studied extensively the importance of resource management and the impact this kind of digital infrastructure has on communities, specifically where resources are already strained, like in Lancaster. The issues with the data center are many, and community members have spoken to the City Council about these harms and will continue to tonight. Noise, air, and water pollution, increases in utility costs, being held politically hostage by a massive corporation, the fact that CoreWeave is a deeply unprofitable company with many billions of dollars in debt, and I'm sure that more people tonight will enumerate these many harms. I'll reiterate what I think is the most concerning issue, which is the enormous strain on our grid. On the low end, with conservative estimates, this data center would use quadruple the amount of energy of all the houses in Lancaster City combined. And I could talk about these harms extensively, but I would like to focus on the next steps that we're looking for as a community. Last week, I spoke to the Planning Commission among many other concerned citizens, and the Planning Commission acted immediately with some concrete steps. And while there's still a lot more we're looking to see from the Planning Commission, they scheduled a public hearing for October 1st and engaged seriously with the possibility of a new zoning category. We're here to ask for the same kind of concrete actions from our city council because it has been almost a month since this announcement was made, and for the planning commission, they made steps within the meeting that we came to them. Here are just a few examples of the type of concrete actions I'm referring to. Number one, you could earmark the revenue from the building permits for affordable housing, the $8 million that you've received. Someone mentioned at the planning commission meeting that it is easier to get an energy guzzling 1 million square foot data center in Lancaster than it is to get affordable housing. If this project is inevitable, use the permit revenue for the city's greatest need. Two, another example, you could put pressure on CoreWeave to use renewable energy. There are some data centers in the world that attempt to center their mission holistically around renewable energy. CoreWeave is not one of these. Their data centers in Europe use almost 100% renewable energy, but in the States, many of their data centers don't at all. So why are we not putting this pressure on them? We know they're capable of it. I'm running out of time, so I just want to re-emphasize that I'm not here to spit vitriol at you. I actually do believe that many of you really, really care about this community and are working on this. I'm here in a spirit of collaboration to share what we believe would be a specific and tangible next step from you. We're really looking for action. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Patricia Ekman.
Good evening.
Hello, I'm Pat Eichman from East Lampeter Township. I've been reading the articles in the Lancaster newspaper concerning the proposed data centers at Greenfield Road and Harrisburg Pike. Preliminary construction has already begun at the Greenfield Road site. Prior to this, to purchasing the properties, it was already approved. The backhanded zoning approval is very disturbing and sends a message to the community that obtaining a buyer was more important than any inconveniences and hazards to residents. I live less than a mile from the Greenfield Road property along 340 in Regents Park condo development, and I have two main concerns with the project: the health impact on the residents and the excessive use of water and electricity to run the operation. The air and water quality may be compromised due to the 70-plus diesel generators and the wastewater pumped back into the waterways. Since I'm in close proximity to the data center, I'm worried about the noise from the generators and the cooling equipment. According to a news article in the August 9, 2025 Lancaster newspaper, a professor of environmental health sciences at University of Michigan School of Public Health, Rick Neitzel, stated, and I quote, "There's evidence that noise disturbance can, over the long term, lead to more serious health problems like high blood pressure, increased risk of stroke, and hearing loss. The science certainly shows that it can be bad for us if we're exposed at high enough levels for long enough," end of quote. In the same article, Jeff Sterla of Wilson Construction, who is doing the work, says the noise will be like the traffic noise on Route 30. I live right near Route 30, and I can tell you the noise at night can be very loud, and I really don't want that to be doubled with this new project. Nitzel replies, and I quote, "The data center may produce less noise than a highway during the day. The center operates around the clock, including at night when highway traffic decreases," end of quote. I asked the City of Lancaster to put an ordinance in place to cover data centers while it may be too late, though I hope not for this center, unless they want to expand in the future, and will put a halt to the center on Harrisburg Pike until the company puts in place remedies for residents' concerns. Neitzel goes on to say that it is possible to limit noise with air-cooled equipment designed to trap the noise from getting out into the environment. Secondly, the excessive water and electricity use is an environmental issue. Will nearby residents experience low water pressure? Who is paying for the PPL substation to be erected on the data center property? Will residents see major increases in their electric bills due to the excessive use of electric? How will wastewater be treated and disposed of? And there are many other unanswered questions.
Ms.
City
Eichman,
government does have a
we've reached 3
responsibility
minutes.
to provide a healthy environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Nathan Bishop.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Bishop. I'm a resident of the 100 block of President Ave in Lancaster Township, and I'm a renewable energy transactions attorney. I'm addressing you today regarding the proposed CoreWeave data centers out of concern for their impact on the people and environment of Lancaster. These data centers will bring enormous monetary and environmental costs. Right now, the data center plan for 216 Greenfield Road will be equipped with 72 diesel backup generators. Our air quality is already the 22nd in the nation for short-term particle pollution. We need to make our air cleaner, not more polluted. Along with the new diesel generation, the power consumption of the 100 megawatt facility will be drawing from Lancaster's existing power supplies, which are composed of 33% coal-based generation, leading to a huge increase in greenhouse gas emissions. The monetary costs of data centers are already well documented. Ratepayers, normal people, end up paying higher electricity prices when new data centers draw upon existing transmission and generation resources. I call the council's attention to 2 reports on this matter. The report titled Extracting Profits from the Public, How Utility Ratepayers Are Paying for Big Tech's Power by Eliza Martin and Ari Pesco of the Harvard Law School Environmental and Energy Law Program, and the analysis of the 2025-26 RPM-based residual auction prepared by the independent market manager for PJM, which is the regional transmission organization servicing Lancaster. This report demonstrates that normal people are paying billions of dollars in higher electricity bills as a direct result of new data centers, and that these costs are only expected to get worse. I call upon the city to reject any further data center applications and, with respect to the center plan for 216 Greenfield Road, to coordinate with the State Public Utility Commission and PJM to gain access to all agreements between PJM and CoreWeave, to insist on new direct co-located solar plus storage generation paid for by CoreWeave to service all of the electricity and backup power needs of the facility, which would help bring green jobs to Lancaster, prevent air and climate pollution, and prevent utility rate hikes, and to establish proactive restrictions on the facility from switching to water cooling systems, and to address the knowing concern issues. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next is Shauna Yordi.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Shauna Yordi. I'm on the 800 block of 3rd Street. I was here last week for the Planning Commission meeting and spoke about some similar things, and I heard a lot of people who were numbers people and who were facts people, and I talked about how I'm a feelings person. That's what I have to give. And as a feelings person, there's a lot of big, scary stuff that's going on in the world right now, and I often find myself wondering what I can do. And the only thing that I come up with is that we should all be wailing in the streets right now. That's the thing that makes the most sense to me. But nobody else is doing that yet, so instead I make art and I hang out with kids. And right now I'm hanging out with some kids who are 4 to 8 years old, and we're building a world. We're building an art installation where we're looking at different perspectives. We've got a town and a mountain and some water in the underground. And when we're building this world, we talk about our roles and we talk about the impact of our actions and how what we do in the town affects the mountain, and how what happens on the mountain affects the salmon that we put into our river. And there's different kinds of people, right? There's number people, and there's feelings people, and there's kids, and there's power people. And right now it seems to me that you guys are the power people. And the power people need to take some ideas from these kids who come up with these incredible ideas. They have all of these out-of-the-box solutions because they're not bound by silly rules and ideas of like, well, somebody said that there was an ordinance that we have to do X, Y, Z, and there's a law about the ha, 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 ha. There's people in power who can change that stuff and come up with innovative ideas and new ideas, just like the kids can decide that they don't want a data center in our town because what's going to happen to the animals that live on the mountain, and how are we going to breathe, and how are we going to drink the water, and how are the ducks going to stay upright on the pond that we built. When none of us can breathe, we're going to have a public health crisis on our hands, and I hear a lot of people talking about boosting the power grid because it's going to take all of this power and such and such and such. And what I wonder is what actions can be taken to boost the public health system in Lancaster City to deal with the effects that's going to happen when the chronically ill people and the people with asthma and the people with migraines and the people who are on inhalers can't breathe, and what's going to happen when our kids can't breathe. The kids can't eat the dollars, they can't breathe the dollars, they can't drink the dollars, they don't give a shit about the dollars. They just want to breathe. And so at that time, maybe, like, is that what happens? Is that we don't do anything now, and then the kids can't breathe, and then we're all wailing in the streets because it's all that we have left, and all we can do is just be feelings people crying in the streets. What are you gonna do so we don't get to that place? What's gonna happen? How do we keep from getting there? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Gerald Greiner.
Is Gerald Greiner here? Our next speaker, Mr. Harris.
Is Dan Weigel.
Good evening.
Good evening. Dan Weigel, Clarendon Drive. As you may have noticed, there's a petition going around. In our community about the data center. We have hundreds of signatures on it. It's been in the news. Obviously, this is a big deal to our community. I'd like to take my time tonight first to read the petition to you all. As AI companies descend on Pennsylvania to build data centers, local governments need to make a choice. Stand up to big tech or sell out their constituents. In Lancaster City, we're facing the construction of 2 AI data centers that have gone under the radar until recently. Setting aside the negative effects of the global AI race, these data centers will cause price hikes for utilities, lower the supply of water and electricity, and create harmful new air and noise pollution. Across the country, many communities that have become sites for data centers have been forced to deal with rolling blackouts and low water pressure while watching their utility bills become more and more expensive. We don't want that to happen in Lancaster City. We call on Lancaster City government to do the following. 1, City Council must request from the Planning Commission an ordinance that covers the zoning of data centers and rescind the zoning officer's decision to zone the Harrisburg Pike and Greenfield Road data centers as wholesale trade and storage. They are not warehouses. 2, Mayor Sirachi and City Council must work with the public to pass a plan that insulates Lancaster residents from the negative effects of data centers. For example, price hikes for utilities, low water pressure, and rolling blackouts. 3, city government must act with complete transparency and not issue any further permits to data centers until these changes have been made. Finally, we call on Lancaster City to be a leader in Pennsylvania and stand up for working people, like you all, over the interests of big tech companies. Now, I'd like to poll the room. Of those in the room tonight, many of you, I believe, have signed the petition. For those who have not, who have heard of it for the first time, I'd like a show of hands. How many of you are with us in our demands and stand with us? For the record, nearly everyone. Please keep your hands raised for a moment. To you sitting up front, I turn the question on you. Do you hear us, and are you with us? Please raise your hands. A bit higher, please. I see everyone on City Council. Mayor Sirachi, do you hear us, and are you with us?
This is a conversation that I want to continue to have because there are some of the things that you're demanding that I can't respond to, most especially around the Public Utility Commission and the regulation of electricity. And so I hear you on the air quality, water, utilization, which this facility will use less water than its previous use, which is LSC Communications, which is one of our top 10 water customers. Noise, independently evaluated. So what I can say is that I am hearing you, council is hearing you, we're having conversations about all of the things that you're asking for, but there are some things that are outside and beyond the capacity of this body to respond to, most especially energy regulation, PJM, PUC, and how PPL is responding to questions about rate hikes, rolling blackouts, et cetera. We cannot answer those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Greiner. I also, I echo that sentiment. I do have some responses after the end of public comment to that effect, but I do appreciate your comments. I do hear you, and I know that many members of council have shared your concerns. We've spoken to me, spoken to the administration, and members of the city government.
Thank you. I look forward to your actions.
Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. I am very interested in everything that everyone has to say, but it's really difficult when someone's at the speaker, and I know you want to applaud them because what they're saying is good, but if we can't hear them, you know, then I'm getting half of what they're saying. So can we click instead of clap?
Fair. Thank you, Councilor Craig. Mr. Harris, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Joe Ellen Wisnowski.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, especially our council and mayor, and for all your service to our community. We appreciate everything you do and for being here. I also appreciate my fellow community members. P.S. I'm in the 200 block of North Pine Street, and I own a business here in Lancaster City, 100 block of Chestnut. So I respect what everyone is having to say here and appreciate all the amazing data. What I have a specific question on is that the city of Lancaster voted last November to be part of Home Rule, which was was pushed forward and discussed and paid for to discuss how that was going to be implemented. Well, the city did vote yes to it. I'm writing what I haven't seen anything updated on the City of Lancaster website as to how we as citizens can implement our right to petition ordinances. I'm not even sure if this was an ordinance passed, but I'm looking at Article 7 ordinances, which says general proposals increases requirements for public notice prior to adoption, and Article 11 adds citizen ability to petition to propose, reconsider, or appeal an ordinance by referendum. I'd like to know how our council members and our governance here are actually, if this is an ordinance that was passed, why the public wasn't allowed the petitioning that was guaranteed by us passing Home Rule, which again, I haven't seen any updates since all the things have been put on the website as to how our people can use our government that we pass to actually be a participant in these situations, which do affect every single person who lives and works in this city. And I leave all these wonderful people who have done amazing research to give all the details, but that's something I specifically want addressed to our community. And you know, we had letters coming out saying, yes, please vote for Home Rule, here's what it's going to do for us. Now, how can we as people who have hundreds here have been coming to these events and represent only a portion, but how do we get the word out to the rest of our community how they can be involved as well in the governing of our city? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wisnowski. To address that very specific question, I do think it's important to mention that this was not an ordinance that was brought forward to council because of the processes that the owner of the property chose to take. It did not come before any body of the city administration, board, commission, or authority. Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Harris, the next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Jennifer Siegel.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Siegel, but everyone here knows me as Coral Rights. I live in Marietta, but I host events here in Lancaster City and rely on people's willingness to travel to Lancaster to pay my bills. And most of my favorite people live here, but more than that, we all breathe the air. And whether or not I can is dictated by you all doing your job as city council members. This data center is bigger than just Lancaster City. At the last meeting, there was some opaqueness around what Carissa Technology Park's overall plans were for the other property. It's as clear as day on Carissa's website that their intentions are for the lots that they've purchased 4 data centers across 2 sites. They are already advertising it to their clients. But what you did make clear last council meeting was that no permits for the other site have been filed. We need to move while we still have options. At the planning meeting last week, it was determined that not only can you create an appropriate ordinance for future data centers, but also for the one that you implied that you couldn't interrupt the process of. Because you haven't made any moves since last council meeting, I'm assuming you're either getting something for rolling over and playing dead, or you've got the most severe case of people pleasing I have ever seen, except who are you pleasing? Because none of us are pleased. People pleasing only ever hurts people and enables bad behavior, in this case in corporations. AI isn't going away. Data centers aren't going to get kinder and better managed. We are at the very beginning of a technological revolution, and right here, right now, you all get to decide if it's going to be in favor of the people or the corporations. And I believe that each and every one of you has the integrity inside of you to choose the people. And if you decide to roll over and play dead, then you better know that protests will be regular occurrences that you all will have to contend with. Please be brave. Start the ordinance work now. We can be a positive example for the country. But if you refuse, then know that everyone in this county will know that every single one of you, including the mayor, is a coward, and that you are to blame for the technocratic takeover of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Everyone will know that you are the reason they can't afford their electricity, that you are the reason they can't hear themselves think, you are the reason their home depreciated significantly, you are the reason that visitors stop visiting and spending money in our city, you are the reason that people can't breathe. I suspect some of you never thought that you would be managing more than standard things, but this is the reality. This is what you signed up for. This is bigger than Lancaster City. It's bigger than Lancaster County. If you can't handle that pressure, then you shouldn't be in government. If you can't handle showing up for people in this, then there is no way we can count on you to push back when ICE arrives. They're already in the area. Everything is connected and impacts everything else. We all breathe the same air. For the sake of all of us, rise up and actually lead. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Samuel Pollock.
Good evening.
Hello, it's you guys hear me, Samuel Pollock from 100 block of Euclid Avenue behind Regal Cinemas. Thanks everybody for coming out. I'm here to speak about two things. It's going to be the data center, and I think the Civilian Police Review Board I saw was later on the agenda. I'll try to keep it quick. People pretty much, I think, have gotten why these data centers are so horrifying and terrible. Lived in Lancaster for a long time. One of my favorite things to do here is hiking around the county, you know, Lancaster Conservancy. We got all those cool ones. Some very close to Lancaster City, actually. Windolph Landing, the wing stem is starting to go off right now. I think the problem is, like, we keep having, I'm like a feelings person, too. I'm also worried about climate change, because reality is it's simply not a hoax. It's true. In fact, it's happening to the pollinators. It's happening there. Climate change is very, very real. And I worry that, like, when we bring up, like, concerns like, oh, don't worry, like, we're going to get the grid great for when all this new electricity comes so it'll be able to handle it. But it's like, wasn't that part of the problem, though? Because fossil fuels do electricity, and that's what's destroying us here locally, too. So it's like, that doesn't really make me feel better if the factual basis is still there, if that makes any sense. And the other thing is, we talked about, like, renewables for these things. You know, I've also read, you know, some of these companies talking about, oh, we want these supposedly, like, net zero AI data centers. But even these ones in Europe, they're using some fossil fuels at the end of the day. Even the best ones in Finland use like 5%. And that's only like best case scenario. The reality is, if you look this up, nobody really knows how much these are going to use in the future. In fact, all we know is that they're exponentially increasing. And the only thing that can keep that round the clock is fossil fuels to do that for when it's the big thing. In fact, that's the whole thing. Facts don't care about your feelings. Fossil fuels will be the only thing that will be able to power these increasing amounts. Literally, you can't do this without fossil fuels, i.e. this contributes to climate change, i.e. this is destroying our planet. That is, although that's global, it's also local. It's happening right here at the conservancies that we all enjoy. It's happening everywhere. And the Civilian Police Review Board, it may seem different, but in some ways it's the same. Like, you're telling us to feel better, like we're going to do a Civilian Police Review Board, and I thought the whole thing would be an advisory joke, frankly, when I looked at it. But at least I thought it would be something. But then I was so disappointed to see that half of it's police officers. They're like current police officers. That, like, the Lancaster City Police Chief is on that review board. And then you know, not just past law enforcement officers, the mayor is going to be appointing current law enforcement officers. And that's not the case in other civilian, like, that's not the case with New York, that's not the case with ones in, like, Martinsburg, West Virginia. You know, they are actually civilians are appointed. You can't even be a past law enforcement officer for some of those review boards. In New York City, you can't even have been in law enforcement or public, any of those types of things, period. Here we're talking about the police investigating themselves. How the heck does that work? Literally, the police are the Civilian Review Board. That's not a Civilian Review Board, that's a police review board. I'm sorry, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Christine Kennedy.
Good evening. You can feel free to bring that down a little lower. Should. Or not. I hope that's not as low as it goes. There we go. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
My name's Christine Kennedy. I live in the first block of Market Street in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I come today to tell a little bit about what I've learned and where I was wrong with some of the comments I made at the prior City Council meeting. Some of those were, I've learned that data centers are not necessarily Bitcoin, which was the Bitcoin mining experience that I had been near and deafened by. That indoor data centers are very different than outdoor Bitcoin mining center that I experienced, and that fans and water are not the only alternatives for cooling at a data center, and that CoreWeave has committed to starting in 2025 that all their new data centers will incorporate liquid cooling capabilities. I questioned what liquid cooling capabilities would include, and according to Wikipedia, liquid cooling fluids can use water and liquid dielectric fluids, of which Wikipedia has a huge list of what that could include. I was glad to see that the City of Lancaster is looking to engage a consultant with knowledge and experience with immediate and long-term considerations and mitigation options of data center construction, operation, and, for example, what potential hazards may be associated with any spills of liquid dielectrics. I believe that corporations purchasing land and developing data centers are moving more rapidly than local municipalities are prepared for, similar in many ways to the explosion of the internet. My hope is that we can educate our elected officials, municipal employees, and residents with good information and quickly learn as best we can from the experience of other municipalities. Among my questions now is how might we be an example to other communities that as we're playing catch up with this train that's running so fast, how might we be able to do what we can when we can? To do, for example, what Sarah Hanosa recommended, and Nathan Bishop and Dan Weigel. I'm very impressed with the kind of research and the resources that we have right here in Lancaster. And I was proud of our city becoming an example to small cities across the country of having a comprehensive plan that incorporates references to all ages, not just certain ages, and all people. We can be an example, too, of fighting the fight to catch up and do the best we can, and maybe even make us a community that CoreWeave might want to point to because they've done the best they really can to help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next is, Lindsay Fitting.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Fitting. I live on the 500 block of West James Street, and I'm here to talk about, you guessed it, the AI data centers. So as a resident of Lancaster City, I fear for our access to water and electricity if this data center is built. We already have so much evidence of AI data centers causing droughts, such as in Texas, where all their data centers combined are projected to use 50 billion gallons of water this year. Residents who are trying to just drink water, shower, and water their plants are being told to conserve their water for the sake of these data centers. Doesn't this sound reminiscent of every other environmental disaster caused by huge corporations? Somehow the solution is always that we need to take shorter showers. Air cooling has been touted as a solution to water shortages. However, this is not an option because CoreWeave proudly states on their website that liquid cooling is essential for large-scale AI performance. There are other ways regular citizens will have to pay to accommodate AI. My friend in Illinois now pays $200 a month for electricity in his one-bedroom apartment. His boss pays $600 per month for his house because their electric company, ComEd, passes the cost of electricity to all of its customers to keep up with demand created by AI data centers. For comparison, my electric bill in Lancaster for a one-bedroom has been $30 to $40 per month since 2022, and so was his in Chicago. The CEO of CoreWeave claims the Lancaster data center will drive economic growth, but for who? Himself and his shareholders. Not the single parent trying to make sure their children have water to drink and bathe, not the 20-something-year-old server working doubles to barely afford their one-bedroom apartment, and not the first-time home buyer getting ready to pay more bills than they ever have in their life. I don't care that you made a silly picture of your dog seemingly out of nowhere. I don't care that you think ChatGPT is a substitute for a therapist. And I don't care that AI wrote your essay so you can graduate and not have to think about these things that you were supposed to be learning. I speak for all Lancaster County residents when I say we will be paying for these AI data centers with our quality of life and wallets if we do not stop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Reagan Lehman.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Reagan Lehman, and I live on the 500 block of North Shippen Street, and I appreciate the council giving us an opportunity today to speak on the issues that are pressing our city. Since the last city council meeting, I noticed that the city has published an FAQ on AI data centers on their website, and while my 3 minutes doesn't allow me to address each point, I'd like to address some of the statements on the webpage. In response to the stated impacts on air quality, I understand that the PA Department of Environmental Protection is reviewing the permit on backup diesel generators for these AI data centers. However, this doesn't address the larger picture that the fact that we're seeing across the nation, we're restarting coal plants in order to fuel these AI data centers. Not to mention, we're now seeing 3 Mile Island is being restarted to power a Microsoft AI data center as well. So in the end, we're impacting the air quality of not just Lancaster, but of all Pennsylvanians. Additionally, are we supposed to simply trust that these diesel generators will only be run as backup power? Are we going to have to depend on self-reporting from these AI data centers? How are we going to enforce that these permits are being followed and won't change in the future? Secondly, when it comes to noise pollution, we're developing on the developer to self-assess the noise impact. Of course, if they're self-reporting, I would assume that they're motivated to report it as neutral. They want to finish this project. They want to make money. You also state that the city will be reviewing the study, but given that this administration seems to be already biased towards these data centers, this whole FAQ page seems very pro-data center, I have a difficult time trusting that assessment. Once again, I ask, what are the means of enforcement if these AI data centers end up contributing to noise pollution? These companies don't care about us, they only care about profit. Most fines are a slap on the wrist to $1 billion company. Will we be tied up in endless litigation if we pursue legal recourse? While I understand that the mayor is pursuing a community benefits agreement with the data centers, my understanding is that municipal zoning ordinances are easier to enforce than CBAs. So why wouldn't we start setting these protections, these zoning protections in place now? During a time when our clean air and water protections are being stripped away at the federal level, we can't afford any complacency on the state and municipal level if we're going to protect our neighbors. Despite the public turnout I've seen at 2 different meetings so far, despite the thousands of emails that I know that you have received, when I checked the agenda earlier today, I didn't see anything about the data centers, and I'm really disappointed. I'm asking that the council today to amend the agenda to take action and start this rezoning process. Data centers are not warehouses. They should have never been categorized as warehouses and skipped a planning commission meeting. Let's take steps now to protect our communities before it's too late. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker.
Next speaker is Frank Arcolio.
Good evening.
Arcolio.
Arcolio.
Frank Arcolio, Old Trinity Place. So at the last council meeting, I asked the great Watergate question, which is, what did you know and when did you know it? Well, I think I've got some answers. The Planning Commission had no idea. They had to read it in the newspaper. The City Council, according to Council President, said, and I quote, "We were made aware of this not terribly long ago. It's new information for many of us." So then who knew? Well, I think there's only one body after that. I think it's the administration. We first found out about it in February with a nice LNP article announcing the project and quoting the mayor as saying she was excited to support the transformation. It was a great win-win for Lancaster. No mention of zoning process, no mention of anything having to do with what needs to be done in order to make it a reality. In July, we finally get another LNP article. Public input may be limited. How about non-existent? What? How is this possible? Well, the mystery was cleared up at the zoning board meeting by Betsy Logan, the Bureau Chief of Planning. The truth is that the developer got letters from the city approving the zoning before the property was even purchased. Long before February 19th, touting how wonderful it is, they had already approved the thing. Isn't that great? The city must have been either in negotiations or reviewing whatever was sent to them for months, but guess what? They kept it quiet. And the approval was based on bogus zoning as wholesale trade and storage, in other words, a warehouse, in order to avoid any scrutiny. And now we stand here being told it's too late to do anything. How deceitful, how underhanded. That is authoritarian behavior, and believe me, we know what authoritarian behavior is because we see it every day in DC. I called it, and I have called it zoning fraud, and I think that that zoning determination needs to be rescinded and be rescinded now. Thank you.
Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Our last speaker is Tony Dastra.
Good evening.
It's an evening. Tony Dasher, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. So what I signed up to talk about was actually parking, but I'm going to connect these two issues because you have some issues that web out over time. The city has a parking issue. It depends on how you look at it and what perspective that issue is. Maybe the city is implementing positive changes for safety and it's taking away your perceived parking, so you now feel left out. Maybe the city isn't doing enough about the parking situation. Maybe you feel like your parking isn't protected, you need a residential zone. There are wicked problems in our community that have gone poorly addressed for decades. This really isn't solely on you guys. This is councils before you, administrations before you. But right now, we're looking at a problem with the data center. I won't belabor details because I've said a lot about it. I had feelings at the Planning Commission meeting. But we're looking at one big issue that the public is looking for y'all to act on, to say something on. And I understand that you may need to ask questions of professional advice on what you can and can't do, but it has been a month. You're kind of speaking volumes by not saying much at all. I agree with a lot of the sentiments in this room. I'm very disappointed in this government. I appreciate the prior comments because unfortunately, we want to demonstrate that we can have a good local government. Why? Because the top needs to mirror the bottom. And right now, unfortunately, the behaviors of not just this body, but bodies across this country are mirroring the top. It's just the marketing is better. We have a comprehensive plan that still, I hear we finally put the RFP out for, but y'all really need to ask the Planning Commission to act on this, and y'all need to do something yourselves as well. You need to speak out. People need to see that you're aligned in the regulation of this development, because the damage it could do will affect us for generations to come, much like the issue of parking has.
Thank you. There were two speakers that were not present when their names were called. I'm going to call them in the order which they were on the list. Daryl Lagasse.
That's me.
Yes. Good evening.
Thank you. Sorry. I came here directly from a meeting with my family about end-of-life care for my father, so I hope that shows how important this is to me.
I'm very sorry to hear that. And then may I also have you start with your block of residence?
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm in the 100 block of North Mary.
Thank you.
So I have a couple points, a couple questions, and a charge to the council. So first, I want to say that for those of us that were here, I think it was maybe 2 city council meetings ago, and we heard the budget and all of the information about where our money is being spent. You may have remembered that the wastewater treatment plant had to purchase a quote-unquote sliver of land from PPL, and that required a land development plan. So we, who own the wastewater treatment plant, were doing a land development plan to ourselves, the city. And yet, the AI data center, nah, they don't need one. We don't have to worry about them doing one. We'll just trust them. That is ludicrous. That is preposterous. 2, I am very concerned with the fact that the governor and the mayor are both so gung-ho about this. And frankly, the mayor, I understand that you have said there's little we can do. There are restrictions in place. There are things that we can't undo. What you could do is speak out. You could say, we are not welcome here. We can't stop you, but you're not welcome here. You could say, Lancaster is closed for business for AI data centers in the future. It's not that hard. So your sort of cavalier and frankly dismissive attitude tonight makes me think that you are full-throated in favor of these. So here are some questions. Who is going to be responsible for checking to make sure that these data centers do not go 1 inch outside of the current footprint, which would then, of course, trigger all sorts of oversight? 2, who is going to be responsible for making sure that these diesel generators are only operated as testing during the day, as the requirement says? 3, who is going to make sure that those generators do not operate for more than 100 hours per month, as the agreement says? 4, who's going to make sure that they never switch to water cooling down the line after we have let them come in? And we say, oh, well, they're already here. We don't really have anything we can do about it. So here's my charge to everybody on City Council, and actually Councilor Royal specifically. This is your chance to distance yourself from some of the mayor's policies. You are running for mayor this fall. You are probably going to win. And this is your chance to say, no, this is different. The mayor has decided she's for this. She doesn't care. This is your chance to be different. The rest of the council, we've been told over and over that there's nothing we can do. The regulation is what it is. There's 2 things about that. One, I would really like to know what communication happened between the mayor and the zoning officer when this decision was made. I don't believe that he just saw this and said, oh, sounds like a warehouse to me, and just passed this. That seems ridiculous. So all of these things that we can't undo, we're not allowed to change things retroactively. We have a city councilor, or a solicitor. Let's start gumming up the works. If they can use loopholes to call a data center a warehouse, we can use loopholes to make it hard for them to get equipment in. We can use loopholes to make it hard for them to get construction equipment in. There are all sorts of things that we could do, and the fact that we're not even trying these things speaks volumes.
Thank you, Mr. Larcy. There was one additional speaker who wasn't present when their name was called, and that was Gerald Greiner. So I'd like to give them the opportunity, if they are present, to speak. And if not, I believe that's our final commenter for this period. Mr. Harris, is that correct? Okay,
Yes,
thank you very much. I want to thank all of our speakers and everyone who's coming here tonight. I want to reiterate again that I and many members of council do share some of the same concerns as you shared this evening. I want to ensure you that the city is working on independent reviews of noise studies and all manner of environmental impacts that are within our power to control. And I'm advocating for updates and modernization of our noise ordinance that addresses the findings. These things are really, really important to get right. And in my experience in government, that can take more time than I wish and we all wish that they would. But we're also working to get answers from our utility providers and state level entities for things like electricity usage, rates, and more that are out of city government control. I want to be really clear that we don't set electricity rates. We don't have a seat at the table, unfortunately, when it comes to that. But we've been working to get answers. I'm committed to keeping the public informed about updates as more become available through that FAQ page and also through our regular council meetings. So I do thank you all for being here. That concludes our first public comment period for this evening. We do have our additional agenda. If anyone wishes to excuse themselves for the rest of the agenda, that's okay. And now would be the time to do that. We will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is reports requested by council, confirming, Mr. Harris, that we don't have any of those this evening. Is that correct?
We do not, Madam President.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is reports of committees of council meetings. Those were held yesterday on August 11th, 2025. I'll give us just a moment to allow folks to clear. Our first is Public Safety Committee, Councilor Diaz.
We did not meet.
Thank you, Counselor Diaz. Public Works Committee, Counselor Hirsch.
Thank you, Council President. The Public Works Committee did meet. We had one agenda item, Resolution 54, which is authorizing an agreement with the Lancaster County Conservation District, which appears later on our agenda this evening. That concludes the Public Works report of the Public Works Committee.
Thank you. Economic Development Committee, Counselor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. The Economic Development Committee did not meet.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Counselor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee the Finance Committee did meet. We had one item on the agenda. We heard from Director of Administrative Services Tina Campbell yesterday for the 2025 mid-year budget report. Overall, the city's finances are on pace as budgeted. Budgeted revenue is slightly ahead, and budgeted expenses are below where they are expected to be at this point. This is mostly due to current staff vacancies, which are temporary and are looking to be filled this year. That concludes my report and for the committee.
Thank you very much. Community Planning Committee, Counselor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Community Planning did meet. We had one item on the agenda. That's Administration Resolution Number 55, 2025, granting a projection easement for Lancaster Parking Authority.
Thank you very much. And Personnel Committee, Counselor Kleekst.
Thank you, Council President. The Personnel Committee met last evening, August 11, and reviewed the appointments to the Downtown Investment District Authority and the Board of Plumbing Examiners. And the committee also reviewed reappointments to the Sign Commission, Public Art Advisory Board, Higher Education Authority, and the Board of Plumbing Examiners. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Counselor Kleekst. That takes us into our legislative agenda this evening. We will begin with those nominations for appointment, so I'll turn it back over to Counselor Kleekst.
Thank you, Council President. Madam President, I make a motion to appoint Katie Shiflett to the Downtown Investment District Authority for a term from August 12, 2025 to December 31st, 2029. Mason Soda to the Board of Plumbing Examiners for a term from September 12, 2025 to September 12, 2026. And we appoint Molly Kirchhoff to the Sign Commission for a term from August 31st, 2025 to August 31st, 2028. Sisava Hongventon, Barry Kornhauser, and Rachel Fanning-Hales to the Public Art Advisory Board for terms from July 31st, 2025 to July 31st, 2027. Jean Weglers to the Higher Education Authority for a term from January 1st, 2025 to January 1st, 2030. And Eric Weiss, Barry Soder, Sean Way, and Trent Myers to the Board of Plumbing Examiners for terms from September 12, 2025 to September 12, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, excuse me, and a second for our nominations for appointment and reappointment this evening. Councilors, any comments on the appointments or reappointments? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
And President Bacon.
Aye. And we thank those members of our community for their volunteer service. Next item on the agenda, item B, is Historic District. Mr. Harris, if we're ready.
Yes, Madam President. Consider the following application and recommendation from the Historical Architectural Review Board for an improvement to a property within the Historic District. Jeff Baldwin, owner of 134 North Mary Street, requests installation of an exterior spiral staircase on a second-story rear porch, and that application was recommended for approval by the Historical Architectural Review Board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the Historic District items. Councilor Craig, do you have any notes on these to add?
I don't.
Councilors, we received notes on the application and recommended, and this was recommended for approval by the Historical Architecture Review Board. I'll ask if there's any applicants or members of the review board that are present that have anything additional to add. Hearing none, any additional council comments on the approvals? From the public on the project? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. As we mentioned earlier, item C on our agenda was not taken up by the Public Safety Committee last evening, so we moved to item D on our agenda, which is resolutions. We have resolution number 50, 2025. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the proper officials of the City of Lancaster to enter into an agreement to enter into a ground lease with Partners for Environmental Stewardship and to take any and all actions to consummate the transactions contemplated by the agreement.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig, this is coming up through community planning.
Thank you, Council President. We reviewed this in committee a few weeks ago, and it was brought forth to today. Administration Resolution 50, 2025, authorizing a ground lease agreement for a Sunnyside Environmental Center. We were presented by our solicitor, Mr. Hamlager, provided information on a two-part action, an agreement to enter into a ground lease and a ground lease and a ground lease. This will be a lengthy process for Partners for Environmental Stewardship to design an environmental center on the peninsula, and then seek permits to construct the center. The ground lease provides them with a 99-year lease on the property to construct and develop the center. The city will continue to own the nearly 9-acre tract where the environmental center will be located. The agreement to enter into the lease will govern the structure of the city's relationship with Partners for Environmental Stewardship until the project definitely moves forward. Then the lease agreement will be signed. All costs for the project will be borne by Partners for Environmental Stewardship. The city will have responsibilities related to the preserve surrounding the center. And those are the notes that I've taken that involve the Sunnyside Peninsula.
Thank you very much, Councilor Craig. I know we have Director Delphs coming to address us this evening. I want to thank you for being here. In addition to your notes, I would also add, I think I recall that there was a lot of work done about community benefit for this environmental center and insurance that it would benefit the community directly adjacent to the Sunnyside Peninsula. Director Delphs, if you're in your comments tonight, if you could also ensure to address that as well. Lights on, that looks good. You might have to get a little closer to it, but otherwise, okay.
Good evening, Council.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good, and thank you, Councilor Craig and President Bakay for the questions. I'm so pleased to be here to talk about this action and this project here tonight. As you know, this has been a long time in the making, and if you'll bear with me, I just want to go over some context related to the project. I know it will be a recap for many of you here tonight, but I did want to just take a few moments to talk about how we got here and also if there's anybody new in the audience listening. I think it's good to have the background as well. I will try to keep it brief, though. I know we have a long night here. As many of you know, in October of 2023, the city completed and adopted its first comprehensive plan in 30 years. One of the big ideas in the comp plan, entitled Our Future Lancaster, was to enhance community access to the Conestoga River. In order to help launch this vision, the comp plan called for a nature and Recreation Preserve at the north end of the Sunnyside Peninsula, and have that, that preserve anchored by an environmental center. City staff issued a request for proposals in November of 2023, and then later issued a conditional award to the Partners for Environmental Stewardship in January of 2024. It's been a little while since 2024, January 2024. Since that time, the Solicitor's Office and our outside counsel have negotiated a series of agreements with PES, and the resolution before you tonight is really the culmination of that series of work, and the purpose is to authorize the long-term ground lease for the Environmental Center building and grounds, as Councilor Craig pointed out. Also wanted to reiterate that our city solicitor, Mr. Hanwerger, he did speak to City Council during the July committee meeting about the ground lease specifically. We do have our outside counsel here tonight, Mr. Igor Pleskov, in case you have any additional questions specifically about the legal agreement. Although the focus here tonight really is on the ground lease agreement, it is worth noting that PES, Partners for Environmental Stewardship, is making progress on the broader initiative as well. The Executive Director of PES, Ms. Diana Martin, is present here this evening, and wanted to give her a chance just to say a few words about the ongoing work, and I think President Bakay, that speaks to your opening question about how all of these pieces fit together for the community engagement, ultimately the community benefit for the immediate Southeast neighborhoods and for really the city and the region as a whole. I would say ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're trying to achieve here, PES is responsible for designing and constructing a world-class green building on Sunnyside and establishing environmental education programs and other similar programming to serve city residents. PES has also hired a stellar consultant team, and they're working closely with the city to develop a master plan for the surrounding nature preserve on Sunnyside. Last but not least, I just wanted to say it really has been a privilege to work on this project. It's truly an innovative and exemplary public-private partnership. The preserve and the environmental center are really intended to serve as foundational community assets for generations to come. And that is largely why this 99-year long-term ground lease is being put in place. Thank you.
Dr. Delfs, thank you so very much, and for highlighting all of the pieces that it took to get us to this time. I know I am personally extremely excited for this development on Sunnyside, a long dormant area in the city. Development has been difficult to crack, and I am appreciative that this includes an element of preserving the nature that exists there. I will get to partake in a hike by Partners for Environmental Stewardship next month. I look forward to it. Maybe it'll be a little bit less hot. That's why I chose September, but I'm looking forward to getting to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilors, any additional comments from the public? Oh, I'm so sorry. Before we do that, Councilor Arroyo, I missed you when I looked that way.
No worries. Thank you, Council President. Just wanted to make a comment. I'm also very excited about this project. I had a chance to partake on the hike maybe a few weeks ago, a month ago, and was very excited. For someone who grew up in the Southeast, I'd never stepped foot on parts of that area, and it was very hard to believe that was in the middle of Lancaster City, especially and where we were. So it's very exciting to see what that's going to be for future generations. So very excited about this.
Thank you. Any additional council comments? Making sure. From the public. You might have to, yep, thank you.
Tony Dasher, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. I am also looking forward to this project. I think this is going to be a good investment in the environmental values our community is starting to stand behind. But I also want to use this as an opportunity to kind of speak to when investment comes in one area, we do have to be mindful of what occurs around it. There's going to be a public hearing in September for flexible residential development at the Planning Commission. I want to say the date is September 17th. I forget right now. But there's going to be a public hearing about potential development south of this site, I believe. And we need to be mindful of what occurs after this facility goes up as a community. And I do trust that the stewards of this land are also going to be mindful of that, but we also have to make sure we are constantly looking at ourselves and each other, because this, I don't have a number for this, but I know a lot of money is going into this project. I know that the building is going to be net negative in terms of producing carbon, or at least that's the vision, which is a great thing. But this might be some of the biggest investment made in the community since that part of town was redlined. So the pendulum can very easily swing, and I would hate for this great project to end up gentrifying the community that surrounds it.
Good evening.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Sirachi. Thank you, Chris, for the setup earlier. I'm Diana Martin. I'm the Executive Director of Partners for Environmental Stewardship. I'm also a proud resident of the City of Lancaster. It's one of the reasons I'm really passionate about this project. On behalf of our organization, I want to thank you for considering the ground lease agreement tonight. This is a really exciting milestone for this project, and just deeply grateful for the city's partnership in making it possible. Over the last 18 months, our team has worked closely with city staff to discuss every detail of the lease agreement. You've probably read it, it's over 100 pages. We talked extensively about what community engagement would look like on this project, what it means to design a world-class green building for our community, the programs that will run at the center, and the ways that we'll report back to you all and to the community once we're open and operating. Tonight's vote brings us one step closer to realizing the vision outlined in the city's 2023 comprehensive plan to transform the northern portion of Sunnyside Peninsula into the city's first nature preserve, and to build an environmental center that reconnects our community to the Conestoga River. Sunnyside has come up several times in this conversation so far. To know Sunnyside and to spend time there is to fall in love with Sunnyside. Sunnyside is just such a special part of our city. It's shaped by the river. It's steeped in history. There's so much ecological potential. There's 89 unique bird species we've identified out on Sunnyside. It's common to see birds, bats, even foxes when you're out there, deer. It's just such a special place. And this project is really about protecting that special place, restoring its natural health, and creating opportunities for our fellow residents to explore, learn, and work right in their own backyard. The Environmental Center will serve as a hub for environmental education, green job training, and collaboration. We have actually 7 leading environmental nonprofits who have signed on to either have offices there, lead programming at the Environmental Center. And the Nature Preserve will provide space for trails, recreation, and habitat restoration. So I want to acknowledge the city's vision and leadership in making this a true public-private partnership. Together, not only are we expanding access to green space, but also positioning Lancaster as a leader in clean water, environmental stewardship, and sustainable waterfront development. So on behalf of our board, our partner organizations, and many community supporters, thank you for your collaboration and trust and commitment to this shared vision, and we look forward to working alongside all of you to bring this project to life. And anyone who's just hearing about it today, I also invite you to be part of the project. We're hosting public guided hikes and tours, and I hope to get all of you out there. I know that there's a lot of passion in this room that we can harness to make this happen, so appreciate you all being here tonight too.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the public on the resolution? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med.
Aye.
Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Beke.
Aye. Thank you so much. Next resolution on our agenda is resolution number 54, 2025. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lancaster approving a memorandum of understanding between the Lancaster County Conservation District and the City of Lancaster authorizing the appropriate officials of the City of Lancaster to enter into such a memorandum of understanding.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is coming through Public Works. Councilor Hirsch.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes a routine update to our memorandum of understanding with the Lancaster County Conservation District. The changes being made are primarily administrative in nature, including minor word changes, and allowing LCCD to provide documents online and on its website, kind of coming into the 21st century there, and decreases plan review and permitting timelines for applications for erosion and sediment control programs from 10 calendar days to 5 calendar days, as well as an update to the LCCD to reduce its inspection and inspection response timelines from 10 calendar days to 8 calendar days. There are no changes to the municipal responsibilities within the MOU, so it does not change our responsibilities in any way. Again, this is mostly an administrative update to our memorandum of understanding with LCCD.
Thank you very much, Councilor Hirsch. Councilors, we heard from Director Stephen Campbell on this last evening, and I just appreciate that we revisit this from time to time, although we're probably required to do that. I appreciate that we do that to look for efficiencies, and I think the fact that in 2025 we're finally allowing the Conservation District to have electronic files and online access is good and overdue. So thank you for that. Any additional comments from council on the resolution? From the public on the resolution? Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med.
Aye.
Mr. Royal.
Aye.
Mr. Glees.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
And President Baker.
Aye. And our next item on the on this part of the agenda is Administration Resolution Number 55, 2025. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving an easement agreement between the City of Lancaster and the Lancaster Parking Authority, granting an easement to LPA for encroachment into the public right-of-way over North Prince Street as more fully set forth in the easement agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to ask that Mr. Cohen come and speak on this because my computer died. And my notes are in there.
Thank you. Councilor Craig. Yes, Mr. Cohen will be available if there's any additional questions. Councilors, we heard a presentation last evening on this easement agreement as it relates to the parking garage project on North Prince Street and the former offices that will be retrofitted into commercial space and the projection easement that's needed for above the sidewalk. The clearances noted last evening were over 8 feet by the architect, and the engineer for the project, I believe, is who we heard from. If there are any additional council comments or any additional questions, Mr. Cohen is here and available.
Yeah, I think it might be worth mentioning too that the building sat for a long period of time, close to 9 years, and now it's being revitalized to bring, to add some beautification to the area.
That's right. And we also heard, I have in my notes from last evening, that the parking authority does already have a tenant, although those details aren't being released out of respect for wanting to ensure that they have the space to make that announcement. So thank you for that. Any additional council comments on the resolution? From the public? I'm assuming you're coming forward to speak, so I'm going to give you a moment. Okay. Good evening.
Evening. Tony Dasher, 700 block New Holland Avenue. So I didn't realize that the parking authority was on the agenda at all when I was talking about parking earlier. But I'm not opposed to this, but I do think the city needs to take a really hard look at how it's managing parking and whether or not the parking authority continues to provide it value, or more specifically provide the residents the value that was kind of set up for. The idea was that we're saving because we're creating operational efficiencies, but what we've also done in another sense is we've created an entity which does parking management. I know it has done outside of the typical 8 to 6, but we have real residential parking concerns that, yeah, I want to live in a carless society too, but practically we need to move through the society we're currently living in, this mess that has been made. And so, especially now that the parking authority is getting into other ventures, which are good because we're reusing space, and I hope that at some point we're creating more affordable business opportunities for people as well throughout the city. I think it's time for the city to reassess its relationship to the parking authority and really consider whether or not it's providing the value to the residents that it should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the public on the resolution? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med?
Aye.
Mr. Royal?
Aye.
Mr. Glees?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
President Baker?
Aye. That concludes our legislative agenda this evening. It will take us to our next item on the agenda, which is our second public comment period. It's open to comments on issues not previously on the agenda. Duration of comments, again, is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Please begin with your name and block of residence for our meeting record. Good evening.
Brian Nelson, the 100 block of East Lemon Street. And I just want to say that we live in a great community. I love that we're getting that environmental thing. That's amazing, right? At the same time, we're getting a data center. How amazing is that? We're getting something that preserves our environment, and we're destroying the environment at the same time. The priorities aren't there for me. I don't see it. And Mayor Sirachi, I want to address you directly here because you say you can't do anything, right? But as Frank pointed out, you were super, super excited about this building. So why didn't you do anything then? Why have we not tried to do? You have plenty of ideas here that you were given, right? And I understand that we're held back by red tape. And I don't think that a data center is truly an awful thing for the community if done right. But the thing is, this was done with no public input because it was labeled as a warehouse. And I'm just struggling to try to figure out where we go from here in terms of, making sure that this doesn't happen again, right? And I know you guys say that you're doing your reports, and I can't wait to hear them, right? I will look at them, and, I will reassess my position then. But I understand that the big, bad bill is probably going to hurt LDH. We're going to get hurt. Right? And we need to bring new industry to Lancaster. I 100% agree with that. I just don't think that this is the way to do it. We're rushing into it. We see it as dollar signs, but when in reality it's not going to bring the jobs that you think it's going to bring. We need technology. I truly believe that the tech industry is a major industry that we can have here, right? A data center sucks. I'm just going to put it right out there. Data centers destroy their communities, right? And we talked about potentially gentrifying a community, which I hope we don't, right? And we talked about that. But then we also talked about potentially destroying black and brown communities with data centers. So where do they go? You're going to kick them out, and then you're going to destroy where they're going to end up going. I'm struggling to see the connect here, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional speakers for this period? Please. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Arcolio, Old Trinity Place. I know I've been critical of the administration with respect to the data centers, but I believe in giving credit where credit is due, and in order to be fair. I sat through a tremendously detailed presentation on the 5-year plan for Department of Public Works at the last council meeting. And I thought I understood that it was the very first one that had been prepared. I was very impressed with the level of, I wasn't impressed with the visuals, but I was very impressed with the level of detail and the thought that went into it. And if that was a first attempt, kudos to the Department of Public Works. It was very well done, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arcolio. And yes, it is hard to make spreadsheets visibly appealing, but they are interesting. Any additional public comments for this period? Please.
Alexander King, 600 block of North Shippen. So kind of to play off Tony Dastro's comments, I'd like to say parking management in the city is an unmitigated disaster. It seems to be a sort of grassroots sort of thing, which seems to me the dumbest way to plan anything. I've lived in a lot of cities in Europe, in North America, South America, and this is the only city where you can petition to have your block have parking restriction, and the neighboring block doesn't. So on the 600 block of North Shippen, there are no parking restrictions. On the 500 block of North Shippen, there are parking restrictions. On the 700 block of North Shippen, there are parking restrictions. On the 200 block of East New, there are parking restrictions, but not the 300 block. So what does this mean? This means that I often see people living on one of the larger apartment buildings on the corner of New and North Shippen, park in front of my house, which is their perfect right to do, because there's no parking restrictions there. And then later, you know, I or my wife tries to come home and we can't find anywhere to park except for maybe 3 or 4 blocks away on Park Avenue, ironically. And so I would like to see just do away with the parking restrictions and then a plan set up. There is no reason why there should be any parking restrictions on the 700 block of North Shippen. You know, there's no commercial thing happening there. It's too far from the hospital. The only thing is that the residents of that street signed up to have those parking restrictions so that the renters on the large apartment buildings on the corner of New and North Shippen wouldn't be able to park in front of their house. Whereas if there were no parking restrictions in that neighborhood, and there's a lot of residential neighborhoods that have the similar sort of hodgepodge thing. So I would like to see the parking authority re-examined. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional speakers for this period? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Abby Haney. I live on the 600 block of East Madison Street. I didn't come here planning to speak. I just wanted to listen. I know I've been here talking about the data centers before, and we had so many great people who showed up today to continue to advocate for action, and so I really appreciate all of you who came. I just had maybe 1 or 2 things that I'm still kind of wondering from the last time that I was here. One of them was the community benefit agreement that I believe was mentioned. That would be figured out between the city and Carissa, CoreWeave. I just have questions again about who is the one who's going to do the negotiating around that. Is it unilaterally? Is the community going to be involved with that? Because I think we really should have the ability to have a say. I also really, I don't know if he's here, but I also really appreciate Dan Weigel, who came and he had a whole list of things that I believe Lancaster Stands Up had drafted in a letter petition. And I really think that those are great, actionable, concrete steps that the council can take. Full disclosure, I'm here with Lancaster DSA, and I really appreciate the work that Lancaster Stands Up is doing in partnership with us. So I really, really hope that you guys will take everything that's been said today, take it in, and really think about what the next steps are going to be, because it's clear to me that the community doesn't want this, so we'd really like for you to have some action. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional speakers for this period? Hearing none, we'll close the second public comment period this evening. Thank you to all who spoke. The next item on our agenda is the report of the mayor. Mayor Sirachi.
Thank you, Council President. I want to just echo what we have heard at the last couple council meetings and in conversations that I've been having in the community related to the data centers, and just to reaffirm that we hear your concerns about water utilization, air quality, noise, the permitting, not the permitting process itself, but the zoning determination. And I am working to be able to respond to the questions and concerns. Additional questions that have been raised about where the power is coming from, and the entirety of like the environmental impact, and have begun to have conversations about an environmental impact report that would address all of these things. I also just want to be mindful of Again, the questions about power and power usage and electricity rates and reliability of the grid are not things that I'm going to be able to answer because that is not in my wheelhouse. I have been trying to get those questions answered and will continue to try to get those questions answered by other entities in Pennsylvania, most especially PPL, and I'm trying to understand what I can about how all of that works. And so I'm going to stop with my comments there. I just want to say I hear you. And I believe that council also hears you. I know that our administration, the people that are working on your behalf every day, hear you. And we are working to run down the information that is needed to answer the questions that have been raised, not only by the people in this room, but by others as well. The second thing that I want to mention is about residential parking permits, since that's been a topic of conversation tonight, to say that that is really in the purview of the Traffic Commission, and the Traffic Commission engaged a team to begin to address residential parking across the city, and they are having meetings in our neighborhoods to address residential parking in those communities. I agree with you, Alex, that it is crazy that we have these residential parking permit blocks, that some of them were approved decades ago when there was a commercial use, and now there's no commercial use and there's no way to take them off the rolls or to revisit that. That was one of the things that was highlighted in the recommendations that the Traffic Commission, I believe, is working to advance. So there's a lot more that's happening related to the residential parking. It is a huge challenge because there are more cars in the city than the city was ever intended to have. The third thing that I want to take us back to is something that was really great this morning, and this is really council, to take you back to when we were able to allocate $10 million to affordable housing. And this morning, I was able to attend a ribbon cutting for the Manor Youth House, located on Manor Street, as you might imagine. This project will provide safe, stable housing for up to 9 young adults ages 18 to 25 who are homeless or transitioning out of foster care or at risk of homelessness. They will have on-site support services, and this project is being led by Community Basics as well as the Valley Youth House, which is a regional leader in youth support services, to bring this project to life. And I just thought you should know that the investments that council made are coming to fruition. I'm going to have more to say about the ARPA housing investments in the coming weeks, but this morning was a very sweet event to participate in and to see that this is filling a really critical need in our community for young people who are aging out of foster care. With that, I conclude my report.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sirachi. I appreciate the update on the Manor Youth House. These projects take a long time, and we make these investments. We did so a couple of years ago, so it's nice to get the update and that it's really happening. So I appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is report of the President of Council. I did speak earlier, and with back-to-back meetings, I'm beginning to lose my voice, so I'm going to forego my report at this time. We'll then take us to council comments. Are there any council comments this evening? Councilor Ahmed, I'll go right to you.
Thank you, Council President, and I do want to thank all of the members of the community who have come out and spoken at the past several meetings. I did request a report on the current status of the data center and what council's options are moving forward, and I do look forward to that report. Thank you. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you very much, Councilor Ahmed. Any additional council comments this evening? Hearing none, and having reached the conclusion of our agenda, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.